On the Road Again is season 7 of episode 8 of Full House. This is directed by Tom Rickard, and as always, there will be spoilers from now as I talk about the episode and share some thoughts. It's an okay episode. It's definitely not my favourite. I think there are some great messages though, and there are some moments that were not too bad. I didn't love the intro. It does serve a purpose, but at the same time, it was a little jarring because usually the intro is Nicky and Alex, and before that it was Michelle. But this one is Jesse's new band, Hot Daddy and the Monkey Puppets, which is quite a name. And it was important to introduce the band so that the rest of the narrative made a bit more sense. I understand that, but I just kind of wish they'd maybe given us the usual intro with Nicky and Alex, and then the first scene after the opening was this scene. And I think they probably could have found the time somewhere. So it was a little jarring, but it wasn't the worst thing. And I'll go through things chronologically. Sometimes with Full House, I'll talk about each of the narrative aspects in turn, but everything connects together really well. And as I said, obviously we have some focus on Hot Daddy and the Monkey Puppets. And sometime later, Danny catches DJ kissing Viper, of course, one of the monkey puppets, and the way Danny dropped his body to the floor behind the kitchen counter when he was worried that DJ would see him was absolutely fantastic. It was very funny. And then Joey comes into the kitchen, and Joey made a good point. Danny's obviously wanting to tell DJ, no, you can't date Viper, he's not right for you. But Joey pointed out that telling DJ, any teenager, to do something or to not do something is going to make them want to do it all the more. Which is, yes, it's a cliche. It's a generalized statement, but I think Joey had a valid point there. And then DJ does something that I think was incredibly selfish, and I hate this for DJ. I hate this moment, and it really goes to show that in the moment, DJ is not concerned with anybody but herself, and unfortunately, it's not the first time she's treated Kimmy this way. She's treated Kimmy like she didn't matter when she was dating Steve as well. And this is because DJ asks Kimmy, well, she asks her what she's doing at the weekend. And Kimmy points out that she's doing her annual father-daughter weekend at the dump. They're getting free ammo so they can go and shoot some rats. Not my idea of a great father-daughter activity, but if it's what makes Kimmy happy, fair enough. And DJ even acknowledges that she knows Kimmy looks forward to this every year, but Kimmy has to go with her to see Jesse's band so that she can see Viper without Danny being suspicious. And I hate it. I absolutely hate it. How dare DJ completely disregard Kimmy? It would be one thing if it was just a random weekend, Kimmy had no plans. Even then, she shouldn't be insisting that Kimmy does this for her. But the fact that she knows this is an important weekend for Kimmy, and it's an annual thing, as she said, it's something that happens once a year. But no, you're going to do this for me because I matter most. Obviously, she didn't say that, but it was a really horrible display from DJ. We're then with Becky, Jesse, Nicky, and Alex as they're checking into the motel room, and Joey then appears. Honestly, Joey went so that he could perform as well, but I feel like that just felt a little bit less believable, and he was still in the episode in other ways, so I don't think it was the best or the most realistic decision, but it wasn't a huge issue. Danny is then, he's vacuuming, he vacuums under Comet, which is a delight, and on command, Comet stands up, and then he sits back down again. It was very, very sweet, a very clever dog. And then he confronts DJ at the perfect time when she tells him that she's leaving to go up to see the band, and that, I think, was the perfect time for Danny to bring this up. And they get into a bit of an argument, and DJ leaves. She's going anyway. We're then back at the motel, and Jesse realizes that life on the road has changed. It's not what it used to be. But then he has to realize that actually he's the one who's changed, which is not a bad thing. And I think it's a good point that things that might have felt one way when we were younger might not feel the same way over time, which is not a bad thing, and I think it was nice to observe this. They then get a phone call from Danny, and Jesse's face when Danny explains DJ has been dating Viper was absolutely fantastic, and he throws Viper out of the band, which I think was unacceptable because they hadn't established that there was no dating family. So I don't think it was fair, but at the same time, I don't disagree with Jesse's initial knee-jerk response. I just don't think it was the fairest decision. DJ and Kimmy then arrive, and Becky tells Jesse that her mother wasn't exactly thrilled about her dating Jesse, and she had to prove to her mother that there were other sides to Jesse, that there were more aspects to him than what meets the eye. Obviously telling us that yes, Viper might appear one way and he may not appear like the ideal person for DJ with regards to what they want for her, but there's more to him and you need to look a little bit past that. And we get a chance to see that because it turns out it's actually polka night. And the band are supposed to be playing polka music so they can do polka dancing. And as luck would have it, Viper has a bit of a history with this, so offers to help out, even though he's been thrown out of the band. And we get to see this kind, caring side to him, and I guess a side that no one would expect, judging by his appearance and the music he plays and the way he conducts himself. Nobody would expect him to be able to play polka music and to have that background. So it's immediately showing us that Becky was right. That just as she had to prove to her mother there were more sides to Jesse, they need to see that there are more sides to Viper. And I thought that was a pretty good thing, a pretty good way to illustrate it. And then Danny arrives and he has a nice conversation with DJ, a heart to heart, and I love how this played out. He says to her, "Don't I have a say in who you go out with?" And DJ said, "No," without missing a beat. And she's right. Danny doesn't, particularly at DJ's age. It does not matter if he likes who she dates or not. Of course he can have an opinion, but he doesn't get to control that aspect of her life, or really any aspect of her life. And I think that was a really important conversation. And I like the fact that Danny didn't push back too much. He realised that actually DJ is right. He doesn't get a say, but he is allowed to be concerned and he's allowed to have an opinion. He just has to approach that opinion in the right way. And then we end with polka music with Pocahontas and his Beer Sausage 7, which is about as random as Jesse's new band's name anyway. And it was a fine episode. I do think there are some good lessons, some important messages. That being said, I don't like DJ's attitude. I don't like the fact that she made Kimmy miss her once-a-year father-daughter date. Fair enough, Kimmy could have just said no. But it's not the first time we've had this selfish attitude from DJ, and it's usually Kimmy who gets the brunt of that. So DJ's not looking great here. But then again, she is, she does have some valid points that she raised with Danny. And I think for the most part, the way she handled the conversations with Danny went well enough, I think. So it kind of balances out. And in general, it may not be my favourite episode of Full House, but it's definitely not too bad.